and I'm recording and I'm going live to Facebook. Just give me about 30 seconds. Share on UCC, not my page. So for everybody who's joining us, we're just getting started for our choirs, Ukrainian choirs in Canada webinar. We're just going live to Facebook. I see we've got lots of participants that are joining us, which is excellent. Very excited to have a national panel of talented Ukrainian choristers with us as well tonight who can talk about their experiences. Okay, there we are live on Facebook. They can talk about their experiences and give some tips and tricks to the rest of us. So we're just going to wait 2 more minutes to let everybody in. So my name is Viter. I'm the Executive Director of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, and we've been presenting a series of webinars throughout the past year related to online activities, particularly pandemic related. But of course, as we head into what is more than a year now, we have a number of cultural points that we're talking about now. So, you know, of course, our music, our dance, our art in our community is reemerging in new and innovative ways. And so one of the things that we've been asked about a lot is from our choir community. We've seen some of the choirs across Canada do excellent things, and those are the ones that are represented tonight. And many others would like to learn, and since we're not able to rehearse, they'd like to see and learn how they can embrace the new technology. So with us tonight, we have 7 excellent guests, or 6 right now, sorry. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves very briefly. I would also, before we introduce the guests, ask anybody who's watching tonight on Zoom with us, you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you do have a question, our panelists will be able to see the question and perhaps answer it in a text back to you, or perhaps we'll be able to use those questions as part of our discussion. We will be showcasing some of the video performances of Hoosli, Viter, and Koshetz choirs throughout. But first, we're going to introduce our guests. So I'm going to start in no particular order other than the order that they are on my screen, so I can keep track of it. From Viter, I'm going to ask Lasia Pohoreski to introduce yourself briefly.
Briefly and Lasia never seem to come together, but Dobry večer, I am Lasia Pohorecka. I'm the conductor of Viter Ukrainian Folk Choir. The choir itself started back in about 2008. The dancing group had started about 12 years before. It was the artistic director of the dance group at the time had approached me and said, Lasia, do you think you could put a group of singers together? So what started with 14 became a choir of around 37 pre-COVID times. We focus mainly on Ukrainian folk music. Yeah, that's pretty well it in a nutshell.
Excellent, thanks, Lasia. Next on my screen is Christopher Sklopovich from Hoosli. Chris, can you tell us about Hoosli and about yourself?
Sure, Igor. Dobry večer. My name is Christopher Sklopovich. I'm chair of the board of directors of Hoosli Ukrainian Male Chorus in Winnipeg. Hoosli's been around since 1969. We managed to celebrate our 50th anniversary with a gala concert just before COVID hit. We were very lucky to get that in. We number about 33, 34 members at this point in time. As the name would suggest, we are an all-male chorus. We focus on Ukrainian music of all genres, liturgical, folk, kozatsky, and patriotic music. And yeah, very excited to be a part of this evening's discussion.
Excellent, thanks, Chris. And next on my screen is Mira Patches. Can you tell us about the Koshetz Choir, Mira?
Yes, it seems like we are going down in age of the choir. A choir is the oldest, probably, the all Ukrainian choirs in Winnipeg community. We just celebrated 75th, and unfortunately we weren't as lucky as Hoosli. We didn't fit our concert in, and the pandemic hit, so we will have that in our upcoming future. So we're celebrating it online. The choir was built with such guidance as Dr. Paul Masenko and Tatiana Koshetz. So where the name is coming from, we are deeply rooted in Ukrainian tradition, and especially we're very thankful to Tatiana Koshetz being our pillar. And the choir just working on different kinds of repertoire, like folk, ritualistic, just similar to Hoosli, folk, ritualistic, liturgical, and also classical repertoire as well. Anything is capable. We are capable of anything, any kind of music. And also we have a main choir and separate female and male chorus, as well as chamber group, which we perform at various occasions. Depends what's needed.
Дуже дякую. And so we have, those are our three main choirs. We have additional guests from each of the choirs. So I'm just going to go and ask them to introduce themselves as well. So we have Alex Rinzio, who is a member of the Koshetz Choir. Alex, can you tell us about yourself a bit?
Hi, yeah, I am one of the executive members of the Koshetz Choir, as well as the treasurer for Hoosli. So a little bit of both groups here going on. But yeah, started singing about 4 years ago and got tied right into it. And, you know, I just really wanted to participate in kind of the background work of both the choirs per se. So yeah, really excited to be here.
Excellent. So you get the double star. You're one of those guys that has to change costumes in between the concerts to head up into all the choirs, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, next we have Rick from Viter Choir. Rick, tell us about yourself.
Yes, good evening. My name is Rick DeBlanco. I have been with Viter 4 years and going on to my 5th year working with Lesia. The group focuses on both dance and choral music. So we've been working together as a group here for what I've been with for 4 to 5 years. And what I love about this, a lot of our choir members are past dancers. So we have a great time, not only in performing with the dance group, but we also, I think we can move a little bit on stage, Lesia, just a little bit, but it's good to partake with the various young members of our group because they make us feel much younger as they move along the floor. So I'm looking forward to tonight's event.
Thanks, Rick. And last but not least is Simon Rusnak from Hoosli. Simon, tell us about yourself and a little bit more about Hoosli.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Simon Rusnak, or Simon Rusnak, and I'm the assistant conductor of Hoosli here in Winnipeg. As you heard Chris mention, I mean, an all-male chorus, and just thrilled to be a part of it. I've been singing with Hoosli for about a decade now, and waving my hands for about 5 of those years. So yeah, thrilled to be here and thrilled to be talking more about virtual choirs and helping out in any way we can.
Fantastic. So again, thank you to everybody for making the time today. And I see we have a large number of people who have joined us, which is great. What I would ask the people who are on the line on Zoom to do, if they do have a question or a comment, is to use the Q&A function, which is located at the bottom of your screen. You can type in your comment or question, and again, our panelists will be able to see that. Perhaps they'll be able to answer live, sort of in text, or we can kind of bring that up in our discussion as it goes. So again, we're very glad to have a lot of interest in tonight's performance. Of course, my aunt is just calling me right now. I'm going to decline that call. Okay, so I'll call her back later. Before we go into our questions, we're going to do the first video, which is going to be in no particular order again, the Hoosli video. And Chris sent me this video. I believe everybody can see it and hear it, so I'm going to hit play. Okay, bravo. I love that. I may have been responsible for some of the dozen or more replays of that one. Very, very beautifully done. So, so kudos to Hoosli. Many familiar faces in there, including some tonight, some with more facial hair, some with less. So I'm going to start with Hoosli, with Chris and Simeon. Our first question is sort of, how did you get started? How did the thought of doing these kind of recordings start? And so we'll go to Hoosli, Chris, and Simon, and then we'll go to our friends at Viter and our friends at Koshetz after that. So Chris and Simon, how did you get started?
So the initial idea for the virtual choir videos came from our conductor, Tad Bernacki. He approached us and said, you know, there's choirs out there that are doing this. Is this something that we think Hoosli would be interested in? Is this something that we think Hoosli would be able to accomplish? We are extremely fortunate that in addition to our singers being, of course, very talented vocalists, we have a couple of very talented technical individuals, Simeon being one of them. So between Simeon and another one of our members, Miles Berdniuk, they set about essentially constructing the plan for how to make this work. So it was a simple conversation, and then it's a matter of putting the right people in the right place to carry it out.
Simon, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I just kind of echoing exactly what Chris said there in terms of, you know, it's just coming up with that initial plan and then figuring out in terms of next steps. And you know, Miles and I were thrilled to jump on board with the kind of back end of it once the guys submitted their videos. And we'll get to that portion of it, I'm sure, very, very shortly. But in terms of getting started, I mean, it was just a matter of, you know, sticking to a plan, coming up with a game plan, and then giving yourself a little bit of extra time to work through the kinks, because, you know, we wanted to make sure we had a lot of lead time to make sure that videos released in a certain kind of time period, being Christmas and then again at Easter.
Great, excellent. So now we're going to turn to friends at Viter, to Rick and Lassia. So tell us, Rick and Lassia, how did Viter get started on the process of the recordings?
Can I start, Rick?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the process started seeing not Ukrainian choirs, but seeing other choirs online and being curious of, could we do this? And how would this work? Because I don't have the technological background. And the first project we ended up doing were the anthems in Ukrainian and in English with O Canada. And was fortunate at that time. The one that did most of our recordings was my daughter, Larissa Pohoreski, who has some through university experience using some software programs. And we just said, okay, let's try this. And I don't even know where to go from there. there were definitely challenges with starting remotely. The first thing is to get everyone to buy in to doing it, and a very humbling experience for everyone. Many people are group singers. They enjoy singing together, and then you put them in the situation of singing by themselves, which really opened up all of our eyes. We all learned, myself included, as I recorded myself as well, to do this type of a project. So leading tracks, we definitely had to use leader tracks to make this work, for everyone to follow a track. I'm not sure which way you want me to go with this, so I'll just defer to Rick. If you want to add, or I can keep going.
Sure. Before this all started, we didn't know what Zoom meant. Okay, let's just get right back to the basic.
Yeah.
What was Zoom? Some of us are on other boards, and we started using Zoom there. So if you asked me a year and a half ago what Zoom was, I didn't know what it was. Not me. It was many of our, well, I guess, the church we go to, parishioners, because I'm on the board there. They didn't know what to Zoom. There's a certain age right there that they're like looking at you and say, "You want me to do what?" Similar with our choir, if I may. That's just some of us have the technical ability, some don't. Another thing we found out is internet. How good is your internet? And that's another thing too. And then some people use both iPads and also the other type of computers out there. So we learned a lot about what we could do at home. Forget about singing. Let's first get the basics of recording. So a lot of us had some challenges there. And once we got through the challenges of able to use some of our technology, then we were able to start singing. Now that was a challenge in itself, because now, like Lesha said, we're not in a studio. We're singing in a room that could be a big open room. You could be stuck in the basement or whatsoever. So it was very challenging for many of us, me included, to find a spot where we could sing with the appropriate background, the appropriate lighting, the appropriate technology. It was a challenge. And did we overcome it? Well, we've seen some of our videos, so some of us overcame all those challenges, but I wanted to start right at the very beginning because this was new to all of us. Anything else, Lesha?
I just want to jump in on a final note. If you have seen us perform, we move quite a bit on stage, or there's choreography and it's blocked in what we're doing. So the challenge of not having a conductor, though now I found out after the fact of ways I could do this, should I do another one, but not having that opportunity to move, to be lively, to interact with people, which is how that's us, that's how we sing. That was definitely a challenge for quite a few of us.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, no, I think we're all in the same boat, Rick, that a year and a half ago, none of us would have been imagining some of the things we're doing. So certainly Viter is not alone in that. Okay, turning to Mita and Alex, can you tell us in Koshetz, how was the conversation on getting started, on getting the idea going? How did it start to come together?
You know, Ihor, having a great president like Scott Armstrong and a good technical team that is behind all of that was a blessing for us. Scott pushed all of us into that direction that we have to. He is the progressive one, and of course I had to go on board with that. And we started by watching, same as Pani Pogorecka said, watching a lot of videos and learning about the process, how to do it and how to do it in a nice way, because at the same time you don't want to lower your image, because the certain choirs have certain image and you want to continue kind of have it so that you have the future, not you showing yourself in a different light. So it was challenging for us to start in, but we focused on social aspect rather than technical. So we, Alex will get into technical for me, but I will say what we started. We started with having a Zoom rehearsals together. So we encouraged people, and although that was not so many at the beginning, but eventually we started getting more and more back. So Zoom rehearsals led to picking certain repertoires as well, something that keeps people interested, and changing a format of rehearsals for us. In terms of, we had lengthy one once a week. Now we couldn't do it. You couldn't last on Zoom doing it such a long time. So we had to rethink all of the steps, and that's how we started. And then eventually, once we had the product sort of already and people's confidence of, okay, now we can record and we can do it, we started producing the videos. So for us, it was, we wouldn't stop singing because we missed that social aspect. So we wanted to get into it as soon as possible, because the more you are away from singing, you lose the skill, you lose the ability. So this way we were thinking, okay, we at least can have a rehearsals just to keep our skills, kind of to keep, not necessarily to produce videos, not necessarily to do anything, but just to be socially together. And that's how we started. And eventually we got much more brave and started recording and started doing it already, and especially dedicated to certain, events that would motivate somebody to do. Or in our choir, let's do for Christmas, let's do for Lesia Ukrainka, for Shevchenko anniversary, and so on, Easter. And then it starts, building up, and confidence gets, there in everybody, because you definitely sound so different when you record yourself, and self-confidence and self-esteem just goes down right away for everybody, conductors included. So yes, that's how we started.
Excellent.
Alex,
Alex, you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to echo a few of the things that people have already mentioned, I think one of the most critical things from my experience anyhow is kind of to echo what Lesia said, was getting people on board is really a critical part. A lot of people, especially if they're not technically inclined, they're not going to be too keen on wanting to participate in something like this. This is way out of their realm. And especially, like she said, it's really eye-opening, but not only eye-opening, ear-opening, kind of as Mira mentioned, hearing yourself sing alone, not something that many people do very often. So it's pretty shocking to kind of hear what you expect yourself to sound like versus the reality of what, a raw video does. But it does help improve individual singers to get better and to get more confident. And yeah, like the next sort of steps from there was, coming up with kind of a step-by-step plan on, what's our first step? What kind of content do we want to create? And then kind of step 2 for that was, how are we going to go about creating this content? And I'm sure that'll be kind of the next discussion, is kind of, what are we going to do to create the content? What steps are we going to take to facilitate to get to our goal for creating a Christmas video, for example?
Excellent. Well, thank you for all those perspectives. We do have a question which I think we're going to address throughout the webinar. So it's from Nicola Parizai, our friend in Toronto, who asks some questions about sort of the cost and the technical equipment and editing. So I think, Nicola, we'll get into that a little bit later on, hopefully. Again, I think each choir will have sort of a different experience. But again, if you do have questions, you can pop them into the Q&A, and then we'll encourage people to do a follow-up. There might be some individual follow-ups that specific choirs might have for the folks on the call today, sort of to help walk them through it. And as you were just thinking, I've sung in choirs for many years, but I don't think I've ever recorded myself. That would be a very scary thought indeed. So we're going to take a little musical break, and I'm going to play a video from our friends at Viter, and then we will come back for our second discussion part, which will be about the nuts and bolts and the technology and the how-to on the user end and the conductor end. So let's just share. It's a little bit of a Christmas seasonal video, so we'll take you back to Rizdva, and here is Viter with Dobry Večer, Toby.
Добрий вечір тобі, пане господарю, радуйся, ой, радуйся, земле, син Божий народився. Застеляйте столи, засиділи на
Веселу новину світ голосить нині, що Христос родився у яслах на сіні. Тож тою новину і вам звіщаєм з веселим привітом Христос ся рождає. Славімо Його!
We'd like to wish our Viter friends and family near and far a happy, healthy, and hopeful festive season. May the magic and wonder of Christmas stay with you all throughout the new year. Weselих свят і щасливого нового року!
Excellent. And that video made me think back to how much I missed Kolyada last year and how much it would be amazing to go caroling this December and January. I hope. We all hope. Okay, so we're in round 2. We're going to talk tech and the nuts and bolts of details. And that's some of what our panel, our questions have been about. So we're going to start with Koshetz, with Alex and Miroslava, and then we're going to go to Hoosli, and then we'll end with Rick and Lasya from Viter. So our friends at Koshetz Choir, tell us about the technology. What do people need to record? How did you get everybody set up? What does it look like to do this on a technical level?
I will redirect this to Alex, but after I just say a couple of words, I work on the sound. I choose repertoire, and we start and make a master recording for what we want it to sound like. So I was blessed to have a family with boys that sing in the choir as well, that have different voices. So all my male voices are covered, and I do all the ladies. So we make a master recording, and this is all goes around in our choirs and the choir members, and they sing and work with those recordings. And once they are ready, then this technical team comes in and they start working. I work on a sound, and the boys work on a video, helping me if I need any help. And I started from scratch because my boys, I wasn't so tech savvy before as well, but my boys would also, and all the young ones, and bugging them all the time. I didn't like this product. I didn't like how that sounds. Could you please help me? Oh, that's enough, your ears. So there was always that aspect, and it motivated me to actually start working myself on the sound and get the results closer to what I wanted to. So I continue to work on the sound, and Alex can tell you how everything else works, because he organizes all people's individual videos, how set up for them, so he can do all that.
Okay, over to Alex, because you're not only doing sound editing, we saw you're doing a great video edit as well to make it visually interesting. So Alex, tell us, what does it look like on the technology end?
Yeah, so just to kind of go back to my previous thoughts, planning really does play a huge role in this. We had to come up with step-by-steps kind of what to do, not only on our end, but also on kind of the participants' end from the choir members, because again, everyone's got different levels of expertise. So, am I going to record this way, or am I going to flip my camera sideways? A lot of different kind of things come into mind there. If you're using your phone, you're going to have a different aspect ratio. My video might be bigger than yours if I'm on my laptop. Those are kind of some things that we had to consider while doing this. And then kind of past that, preliminary planning stage of what is this video going to look like? How are we going to get people to record? You have to think, where are these videos going to be stored? We have 30 plus members who are submitting videos. So you've got options like Dropbox, Google Drive, to use to kind of have people submitting these videos towards. And then once we were done that stage is kind of where the editing came in. So there's kind of two main options that we considered when doing this. So there was either in-house, which was the route that we took, just because we had the technical expertise to. Myself and Mita's children, Yaroslav and Alex had both helped out with the editing. We started all the editing in-house. So they did the video aspects and part of the audio. I did some of the audio, and I did a lot of the planning aspects. But yeah, for audio, we used a software called Audacity. So it's a free software, super user friendly, lots of tutorials and stuff online. So it's a great software, especially for beginners and stuff. Like it's got all the basics, nothing too technical, nothing too crazy. It's pretty easy and user friendly. And then for the video portion, you've got quite a few options to go with for video editing. If you plan on doing it in-house, and kind of having someone within the group doing it. We used Adobe Premiere for that. But yeah, obviously your other option would be to contract that out to someone who's kind of a little bit more experienced, and that's their career, that's what they do. So if that's what you choose to do, obviously you're more than able to.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to turn over to Chris and Simon about the tech end, and I think you guys wanted to share something on your screen.
Yeah, Ihor. Well, we were just thinking about it, and when we were kind of prepping as everyone's been saying here, this has been a multi-staged process, and I guess the biggest thing is, of course, it's going to be no substitute for doing kolyada in person or singing and gathering in the social atmosphere and everything that is created and beyond what a choir is. But it does keep people singing, which has been a little silver lining in this time. And so when we were prepping the guys for that, much like Alex was just talking about, there's obviously going to be different levels of technical comfort and without getting into aspect ratios and all that good stuff. And so what we ended up opting to do was basically create just a little tiny prep document, a PDF document, which I will share with you in just a second here, if I can pop over to a second screen. So let me go ahead and press that. So basically, I created this little mini file for the guys in the choir, just with some major points. Just given that most people had cell phones, we opted to encourage people to use their cell phone. Or any other really recording device. I mean, be it an iPad or a computer or anything like that. You need a space in which to record, and obviously recording in a bathroom is going to sound very, very different than recording in a basement with a shag carpet. And I don't know, maybe you've got some shag carpet on the walls too, depending on how old your basement is. But in terms of finding a space, finding some sort of light so that you look not half bad, and then making sure that camera was at an appropriate height. I mean, if it's super low, as you can kind of see in one of the images, we're going to get the classic chin shot. If we raise that thing up a little bit, I just put some books under my laptop for the picture. It gives you a very different final result. And so for each of the guys, making sure that process was good to go was pretty important. It was kind of laying that first foundational step, and then, as Alex said, as many people will likely echo, the submission part of it was another section. And so that was a submission to Dropbox. We reviewed the audio from the guys. If they needed to retake anything, then that would happen as well. And so there were multiple takes that happened, and very thankful that they were so on board with the process, because I'm sure it was frustrating at times to think you did a great job and going, okay, I guess I'm going to have to do this one more time. So yeah, it was a multi-stage process, working from a click track like Pani Lasia referred to, and Pani Miroslava did as well, in different formats, so the guys could sing along, earpiece, and then record it and submit.
So Chris, how did it feel on the participant end to record?
Well, Lesia mentioned it at the outset that this is a very humbling experience for most, if not all, of the singers to hear what they sound like individually. But the biggest thing really, and I know we've all touched on it, it's all about that buy-in. It's all about, trust me, follow us on this. We will get you to a place that there will be a wonderful final product. And I feel that all 4 of our videos definitely showed that. So it helped to build that buy-in. As you look at the progression of our 4 videos, the number of boxes in that grid gets larger and larger, because more and more guys were able to buy into it. And as Alex mentioned, we were very fortunate to have Simeon and Miles able to do the video editing within our group, but we did contract out the sound. In fact, he was, I believe he's on the webcast right now, Mr. Joe Dudich, Juno Award winner, who happens to be an alumnus of Hoosli. We brought him in to help us with mastering the sound aspect of it, because as I'm sure Alex and his team found out on the Koshetz side, doing it by hand and learning the software as they go, trying to mix 30 plus tracks to make it sound as a cohesive choir is a monumental task. And then, as Panimira pointed out, not only to mix them, but then to bring it to that true choral sound as close as you can get to, as if we were standing shoulder to shoulder. It takes an incredible amount of talent, incredible amount of patience, both on the part of the participants to do a retake if necessary, and then the professionals to bring it to that polished level.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. So going over to Edmonton, to Rick and Lassia, how did it look and feel on the nuts and bolts tech end for Viter?
I am so blessed I have children. But
Here.
there you go. A lot of it is very similar, just as I was listening. We did collect the video submissions. We had a shared drive that everyone put in, sheet music, recorded tracks. So we're repeating there. Similar idea. Larissa had created a cheat sheet so everyone could see where you should be. The same thing that Simeon had just presented. So I can see that we did a lot of the same things there as far as preparation. And, came up with the challenges too. What kind of earbuds are you using? Are you AirPods? Is there something that is bleeding through? We could hear a click track in between. So somebody was off a bit, making sure, of course, nobody was behind you. We chose on Dobry Vachit and that one took longer than anything else because we had to pull audio and then we had to make the video. So kind of a couple of different things. Again, Larissa had mixed it using different things that were through Adobe. I know we used Adobe Creative Suite, as she had access to that program. The videos themselves, they were compiled through Adobe Premiere Pro and then the final audio was mixed on top. There was another Adobe one in there. It's called Adobe Audition. Again, you have to be familiar with how to use them. And that the technical part, I didn't have to worry about. Same challenges with the tech savvy and the nuts and bolts on understanding, or people, some people doing 10, 12, 15 plus takes of their voices. So something that could have been done in 10 minutes may have taken somebody many hours. And being a pandemic, everyone's reacting differently. Everyone is, many people stepped out of their comfort zone, I'm sure in all choirs. And just the fact that you brought community together and did it, and we wanted something to show our style. Hence we did the video. In our case, we had to decide, do we go with masks or not? But if you wanted to meet in a group to show, we did do that because this is very real. This was what our kolyada was like at the time that we chose to do this recording. Just trying to think of a little bit more on that one. Recording at home, there were problems. There were the same problems. There were so many problems with the cutoff, as every choral director knows. How hard to get, unless you've got a de-esser and you can clean that in audio, there's so many times you don't have anyone to give that downbeat to be able to have it just come. It's on the track, but human nature, everyone's breathing at their own time. They hear it, they can hear the beat, but getting that breath and getting specific notes. I know overall, if I'm looking at the nuts and bolts, I think there's a lot of successes in this project, having the pride of the company or the ensemble. In this case for us, we had some dancers that were comfortable to come in and be a part of the video. So we really, in a perfect world, it would have been lovely to have 70 of us. Not everybody is comfortable doing this, but I still think we were able to portray what we needed to. Rick, do you want anything to add?
Sure. Success. Let's define success. Each one of us in various choirs have a different definition. I think all of us who are able to put together such a video was part of the outreach that was necessary during this time of COVID. Aren't we all successful? That is the message that we brought to all of our choirs. Choir members and dancers, is please define success. This is for whom? This is for Baba. It's for Diedo. It's for your other aunties and uncles. It's for everybody, your friends. That's success. It may not have been perfect. We may not have all been in tune. As you see, Viter moves around. Some camera angles were totally different. I did mine outside. It was -20 with my cousin. We felt that was the best to represent our time during Christmas. So I think what we have to all look like is what is success. This is amazing. We're even having this today. Imagine a year and a half ago, would we even talking like this? The answer is no. So here, the bar has been set. Not only been set, it has been raised throughout the year. And we need to continue part of the outreach because that's who we are as choirs.
Very well said, Rick. And these three choirs and others have definitely raised the bar, and I know have got the choir community in Canada buzzing about, oh, how do we do that? So we should kind of look at that sort of, pandemic or not, that it's a really nice, it's a beautiful record of the work that each of the groups does. Something that will be timeless in a way, right? The recording will stay forever. So on that note, we're going to go to our third video, and then we're going to move to our third section. So the third section will be sort of advice to other choirs, talking about some of the reactions that these groups have had. We have, again, a few more questions in the Q&A about, and some of them have been answered on sort of the technical end, but on sort of what you would do going forward. So let me just try to switch over to the Koshetz Choir video. Okay, and we'll enjoy this, and then we'll come back for the conversation.
Була весна, весела, щедра, мила, промінням грала, сипала квітки, вона летіла, хутко мостокрила, за нею світ співучі пташки. Все ожило, все загомоніло, зелений шум, весела луна, співало все, сміялося, гриміло, а я лежала, хвора й самотна. Я думала, весна для всіх настала, дарунки всім несе вона ясна. Для мене тільки дару не придбала, мене забула радісна весна. Ні, не забула, у вікно до мене заглянули від яблуні гілки, замила тіло листячко зелене, посипались білесенькі квітки. Моя душа ніколи не забуде того дарунку, що весна дала. Весни такої не було й не буде, як та була, що за вікном цвіла. Весни такої не було й не буде, як та була, що за вікном
Bravo, and even a soloist, Katrusia, very beautifully done.
Thank you.
We're going to go to our final round, which is sort of advice, reaction. We're going to start with our friends at Viter, then go to Koshetz, and then end with Hoosli. And I have to say a special thank you to Lassia, because when we had our AGM, our online AGM for UCC, I thought, oh, well, I should ask Lasya to record the anthems for us because we're going to need to play the anthems. So Lasya graciously agreed to record the Ukrainian and Canadian anthems for us, which we played, and it has been enjoyed at many online AGMs around the world, I believe now. So Dyaku Lasya.
You're most welcome. And that was our first recording project. So that was the first experience of Zoom, was creating the anthems, which was, I said, okay, we committed. We have to get this done. That was definitely the eye opener and the confidence builder for moving forward. So advice for other choirs, try it. And I think the biggest thing is don't compare yourself to others that are out there. Human nature, we want to, but I mean, if you are using learning a program yourself and you're not tech savvy, to someone that has hired someone, we're looking at that is different, and it's okay. It's okay. But I think to not have your members singing right now is doing more hurt spiritually as well as vocally and mentally for the person. People need to be singing. They need to be singing. And we're almost at the end of this pandemic. So I would encourage, if this is what we have to do with our Zoom rehearsals, I invite every choir to unmute themselves and try singing Noha Elita to the group. It's the most beautiful, horrendous sound you will ever experience. And it is great joy. I think there's a lot of benefits of what we did with these. For a choral director, you really got, through doing the recordings, a chance to hear your choristers one-on-one, which you don't necessarily have the time to do on a weekly rehearsal. Sectionals, but even to a certain point with sectionals. So you had an opportunity to be able to talk with them, to go over things and maybe calm down a few of the fears that they had and offer advice online as best as you could. I think as a vocalist doing a project, you have a pride in your company. You have a pride in where you are, that you did this, and you're sharing it to the community, to the Ukrainian community, and connecting through the joy of song, which is why wonderful that, thank you to the other choirs here that did create this type of a project. My advice would be is get that buy-in first, right? Help them with the technology. Don't presume that everyone knows how, for sure. It's okay to make mistakes, right? Embrace the mistakes that we have, laugh at your mistakes and go, was that me? Oh yeah, that was you. I'm talking about my own recording, right? And really having fun with it. I would love to see a few choirs do something all together, but perhaps we'll talk on our own little webinar privately.
Canada's biggest choir rehearsal. Is it coming together here? Well, we do have, actually, Lasya, while you're saying that, Roman Soltakevich sort of asked a question, I guess maybe people can reflect on in their own answers. Has the pandemic opened up new opportunities for collaborations within choirs, within the community, outside the community, new audiences, et cetera? So I'll turn it over to Rick to give his reflections and on what the perspective has been.
Okay, I'll just want to pause there and answer some of the other previous questions. The biggest element is fear. We have to overcome fear as individuals because this is new to all of us. You're right, we're not standing by each other. And when you're in choir rehearsal, your partner next door may not be singing properly, so you'll not be singing properly. And then all of a sudden, Lasya would catch it, for instance. But why are we fearful to sing out of tune by our partner, but afraid to sing by ourselves? So that is something we have to overcome, is fear. I'm just looking at Roman's questions here. As per opportunities, absolutely. Absolutely, this is something for everybody. This is something that we can take to our community, wherever it may, not just in Canada, by the way. Like we can go beyond the various communities out within the world, past the audience. There is somebody out there, and I know that there's an opportunity, and this is when I sang for another choir, you touch one heart. You have done your job as a chorister. How many hearts have we touched this year in hospitals across Canada, Ukraine, United States, seniors' homes? How many hearts? Start counting. It is amazing what this does. So the answer is absolutely. Here's another opportunity to reach out to others. And this is something that we have to continue on. I could say that's part of our group here. Have we gone beyond the word fear? Not yet. we have to get there, and that comes with time. So if we continue this as another element of who we are as choristers, imagine us a year from now, 2 years from now. Imagine doing something across Canada. There are so many things that we can do here. So I'll just leave it at that, but definitely, this is an opportunity to outreach. And like I say, let's touch that one heart. There's many hearts in Canada, many hearts in Ukraine and in the world. If we touch one of those, imagine the audience. I'll leave it at that.
Well said, Rick. Over to our friends Amita and Alex. Any advice? What were the reactions to the recordings you had, and any comments on that that comment by Roman Soltakavich about audiences and reaching out?
Absolutely, Igor. It opens opportunities not only for the in-house singers to become better, to build their self-esteem, because after the first takes and after the sound that they heard, they need to practice, they need to learn and improve to get themselves better. And I could see it in my choir, and every single other conductor would probably notice it in their choirs. And this is a wonderful feeling for a conductor to see that each individual voice is working and is trying and is thriving. Not only that, thriving, because all of a sudden they're not hiding behind the neighbor, but they are working on their own, diction, on their own sound, on their own breathing. So that's a wonderful experience in-house. But all these videos, and the ability to share them with somebody, an ability to be heard, it's the biggest reward you could ever have. And we were blessed with that. So we all, even though the process is just absolutely brutal, because there's no reward in the process, except eventually you see, okay, I sound much better, and the video is good. The actual product gives so much joy, as Rick pointed, everywhere. And the ability to start conversations with people that with different conductors, with different performers. It's wonderful. It is opens doors to a lot of collaborations. And I think it should be a part of the choir living, not only during pandemic time. We will try, especially on our end, we will try to continue to produce something like this. I think it does showcase the choirs from a different perspective, from different point of view, which is also interesting. And although we are so far from distance from each other, close, we are so close in the world right now through technology, through all this beautiful music that we create. So I'm just grateful that we are able to do it. And I'm thankful to my president and my tech team that supported all this and let us all, and all wonderful, every single wonderful singer that I have in my choir, and encourage many more to come and to continue with all this tradition of singing and promoting Ukrainian music, because we cannot let it die. It's part of us.
Dякую. Alex, anything to add to that, and the reactions on the advice for other choirs?
Yeah. First, I just wanted to address two of the questions that are in the queue. One about click tracks. Yeah, that's something we kind of skipped over. But yeah, having a click track, just a guide track to have someone following along with, super helpful tool to use to get everyone kind of synchronized for the videos. And yeah, as well as like just in terms of like the financing, like there's been plenty of like COVID grants provincially that we've applied for and have been taking advantage of. There's a Manitoba Bridge grant, for example, here, but if you're in a different province, there may be other opportunities. But yeah, anyways, if you're on the line kind of thinking about like, oh, maybe we're too late, or no, you're not too late, because even though the pandemic is ending, I could say this for both Hoosli and for Koshetz, I don't think it's a plan that's likely going to stop. This is a great way to, there's kind of three great takeaways from these virtual choir videos. The first being not only keeping your choir engaged and keeping kind of the internal members engaged, but keeping the audiences engaged too. Um, people who would normally come see your concerts are able to go. And to kind of take that a step further, now you have a broader audience, not only the people from Winnipeg or from nearby are coming to see your concerts. Now I can reach Edmonton. Now I can reach Ukraine. Those are people who know, like, I'm normally not going to get Batya from Ukraine coming to watch my concert. Now I can. So yeah, you get a way broader perspective in terms of audience. And not only that, but the number of people who are able to come to a performance isn't just limited to the size of your arena per se. Lastly is just kind of being able to, the biggest takeaway from this, I think, is being able to expand your presence virtually. Using YouTube to gain viewership, using social media to stay engaged with people, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, those kind of things. Those are kind of our biggest takeaways, is being able to get a large audience from kind of everywhere is what I think was the biggest takeaway from all of this.
Excellent. Well said. Okay, Simeon and Chris, advice for others and reactions to the videos you produced and other thoughts on some of the comments we've seen.
So definitely, I think number one, and it's been touched on a couple of times, is don't let the technology aspect intimidate. I know this evening we've talked a lot about Adobe and Audacity and hiring professionals to do things. To be perfectly honest, that's the smallest piece of the puzzle. It's about the buy-in from the members. It's about giving the members that outlet to sing. You touched on that very nicely. Everybody wants to sing. We're all used to rehearsing. I know, speaking for myself personally, without Hoosli rehearsal every Wednesday night, I lost track of days of the week during the pandemic because there wasn't that pivot point. That every Wednesday is Hoosli practice, and it gave structure to my week. Alex touched on some of the financing. You notice at the outset of our video, we were very fortunate to have Carpathia Credit Union step in and help support one of our video productions. The community support for what we do is there. The community support for the arts is there. It's just a matter of asking for it. Building the online presence, Alex touched on that very nicely. Throughout the span of the 4 videos that we released, Hoosli's subscribers on YouTube increased tenfold. Across those 4 videos, we are now well over 35,000 views. I mean, that's just an incredible type of audience, and it truly is global. You read the comment section after our videos, and it's people from everywhere saying, what beautiful voices there are in Canada, and how wonderful it is to see the traditions being continued. And even from the folks here at home, one of the comments that a friend of mine made to me just after we released our first video, just prior to English Christmas, we did Book with Vichny, and a friend of mine reached out with a simple comment. She said, "That's the first thing that's felt like Christmas this year." It's a very powerful message. Rick was talking about touching hearts. That's the type of feedback that we need to hear. And again, I can't stress enough, the technology is not the stumbling point. Is there a bit of a learning curve? Absolutely. But it's not insurmountable. It's giving your members that opportunity to keep doing what they love to do and keep sharing the beautiful art that we've been sustaining through whatever the world may throw at us.
Very well said. Simeon, anything to add? Go ahead.
Really not much to add. I mean, just to echo that sentiment, I think what was so shocking for all of us was just how quickly it all went away. The fact that we weren't able to gather, we weren't able to figure out, was it Tuesday or Wednesday night, because rehearsal wasn't there. And then what we also realized very quick was just how little we had to offer people who were also missing this. It wasn't just us who was missing getting together and singing and performing. It was people who were in the audience, the attendees. And Hoosli, I know before this, really didn't have anything in terms of, I mean, yes, the CDs are there, and we can play those CDs on repeat, over and over and over again. But to see the faces, that was something that I think was missed by a lot of people. And to put these videos together, as time consuming as they may be, that reward was worth it in and of itself. And to keep that connection, not only to the music, but to the community here in Winnipeg and beyond, to say, oh, I remember when, my dad sang in that choir, my uncle sang in that choir. currently singing and continuing that tradition, I think was very special for a lot of people. And very much like Alex said, it's something that I think we'll have to continue doing in the future. Now, whether that just becomes recorded live performances or enhancing that side of it, those are next steps once we can get back into the rehearsal hall and get back into those meetings and figure out how to keep this online engagement going. Because there is most certainly a hungry audience there, and we as performers, we can feed that hunger, and I think that's a very, very special thing.
Well said by all of you, all of our panelists. I would encourage, Chris, you want to add anything?
It goes above and beyond these videos, but in terms of the global outreach and using technology to find or to reach our audiences and to find greater audiences, in addition to YouTube, we also did a lot of work on Spotify, on iTunes, to get our music out there. And streaming, although it does actually generate a small bit of revenue for the group, we also released our 2 Christmas albums on YouTube for free for the 2 days around both Christmases. And just sharing as much of our art as possible in I think brings the community together and helps sustain the art form.
Absolutely. So I will share, we did a family Christmas call, and I played the Bachprit Viter from Hoosli at the beginning, to replace the family singing, and everybody was crying at the end of that one. It was very, very, very meaningful. And as well for Velikting, I know I'm in a choir that's a choir here in Ottawa. We had recorded the Jerusalem Matins 3 years ago. So we just even sharing that recording online, we didn't have a video or anything, but just sharing that recording with people was very emotional, because they were missing that, the church, that mass, that whole process of Jerusalemski utrenia. So again, I think I wanted to thank all of our panelists here. Thank you and your groups for the work that you've done. Our guests have seen some of the wonderful YouTube videos. I would encourage everybody to search Viter, Koshetz, and Hoosli on YouTube and subscribe and enjoy the full repertoire. And there's even pre-pandemic stuff, back when people performed on stage and live. There's stuff to enjoy there as well. And we'll share those links on our UCC page and social media page as well. To wrap up, actually, I've been reading in the chat here, there's a woman named Audrey Baiduja who's told us about Koshetz Choir. So I have very cleverly searched them on YouTube while we've been chatting. So I'm going to play Koshetz from Saskatoon, Mnohayalita, as a wrap up of our panel. And again, we wish all of you well, and your choir members. Thank you for what you do, and for the much time and much effort, and I think the inspiration, frankly, that you've given to us. And I think in other communities as well, we've shared your videos and heard from other communities in Canada, other cultural communities, thinking, wow, like this is next level in terms of the way that you can continue to transmit the culture. So again, I'm going to wrap up at that point. Thank you to everybody who's been with us tonight. And we're just going to end with a short clip from Hoosli from Saskatoon, who we discovered tonight during the webinar, a short clip of Mnohayalita. So if you're at home, you can sing along, and we'll wrap up on that note. Dobranic всім.